Hey, welcome back to another episode of Life Isn't Over Yet. So, last week we were talking about the Taurus new moon, and it's all about the Venusian energy. And I gave you, according to your rising sign, what area in your life, according to the houses, you would be experiencing this change in your life. So keep in mind that Uranus has been in Taurus, and this month it will be moving into Gemini. But right now, Taurus, with this Uranus Taurus, it's all about change. And because Aries season is the new year and it's about pioneering in something new, this new moon in Taurus was just about that. Like, what are you going to bring in? What intentions are you going to set that is going to make a change in your life? Because when Uranus moves in to Gemini, there's going to be a change when it comes to communication, the online world, and it is about how you want to move in the world and how you want to communicate through your process. If you're like me, you have a very entrepreneurial spirit. And so maybe there is something that you set an intention towards a project that you're creating or how you want to be online. So Taurus's energy is, very Venusian. It's your sensual side. It's not forgetting about what you love, whatever you're creating, whatever intention you set, it is your energy at the forefront. And so I was talking about how whenever we get out of our way in the last episode, whenever we are in our way, these feelings of not being enough come up. And so, because the new moon was in Taurus and Taurus rules the second house of self worth, that's going to come up because not only when we set an intention for the macrocosm, meaning, how we're going to make our money, some skills and talents, our material possessions, not only are we looking at it from that aspect, but also in the microcosm, which is us, how we evolve during this time, we're going to feel that also. Now, we are cyclical by nature. And so we go through cycles. And that's why I use the moon phases to keep myself on track with whatever intention I set. And I am aware because the moon represents your emotions. I'm aware of what feelings, what emotions, what things are coming up that are around the intention that I set because everything is connected. Everything that you are wanting to manifest into the physical is an aspect of yourself. So not only are you growing this intention, this project, this business, this relationship, whatever it is that Taurus happens to be in your chart, you are also growing with it. And so the moon is a reminder of this. So as I'm recording this, the moon is in Leo, and Leo represents children, the house of children and passion and your self expression. And so Leos, it's like you can get in your way because you don't want to shine your light, or you can get into wanting to be seen, overly seen, and it turns people off. So that there's that duality there, right? Because Leo's energy, although it's very generous, loyal, creative, and has that sense of leadership. If the Leo energy is out of balance, you could be egotistical, kind of bossy, want to take up the limelight and leave no space for anyone else. And so you have to be mindful of this when it comes to your self-expression and your passion because of this Taurus energy of what you set the intention. Remember, it's about what you love, and then it's connected to the area in your chart um, of what area that you are growing right now, this Taurus energy. So for me, I happen to have Taurus in the fourth house, which is about mother energy, parenting. It's also about your physical home that you live in. And so I've been paying attention to the cycles and the evolutions that I'm going through. So with Uranus in my fourth house of home, I've experienced a lot of change. Like my husband works at a job where it's taken him out of state. And so we live apart right now. And so that's a different change. Also, I know that we are getting ready to put our house on the market. So I'm looking for our forever home. So that is going to be a change. But not only that, um, the fourth house is where the moon is naturally lives in the fourth house, rules the fourth house. And it is that Cancer energy, the motherly, nurturing energy. So it is about parenting. So things that have been coming up for me, I'm just using myself as an example because you can, so that you can see maybe in whatever area, according to your rising sign, this moon is affecting you and what conversations are coming up. Because conversations help you to explore where you have your perspective and your mindset on repeat. And it's for me, it is the house of parenting. So I started thinking about and talking with a family member, and we were talking about parenting. And my parenting process is different than their parenting process. And I believe that when you raise children in a stable home and you support them with whatever creative project or advancement in life, that you move out of struggle. So when I grew up, my mother was a single parent, and so she raised us. Her mindset, because of also my age. So, if you're a Gen Xer watching this, you probably resonate that you came from a time where you were forced to just go out there and figure it out for yourself. And you probably moved out of the home at an early age. I moved out of my home when I was 16, not by choice, but I had to. Um, and there was no like, I was able to rent an apartment at 16, okay? Just going back to how that generation worked. It's like if you looked old enough, you had a job, then, you're an adult, okay? That's kind of my perspective. It could be different for me, for you, but I feel like in that era, kids were left to defend themselves because their parents were busy on this cycle of struggle and trying to climb the ladder and make ends meet. And so it was like, if you're 18, if you're not going to school, you join the military or you get out, okay? So you probably can relate to that if you are a Gen Xer. But the problem with that is when you are forced to leave at an early age, you create more of the same, right? So if you come from a family that struggles and they just took any job so that they can, put food on the table, then they're teaching you the same way. And I started thinking about parenting skills where if you come from money, there isn't that urgency, right? You have time to figure out what you want to do with your life and you become successful because you have the support of, maybe not emotional, it doesn't have to be emotional support, but just your basic needs are met. And so you can focus on yourself. Now, I know that there's a difference between enabling a child who is not moving forward and there is no growth. But then there are adult children who are, especially in this time that we're in, that are trying to move forward, but because of the circumstances and inflation and the cost of living, and even to rent a place, It's not as easy. And so, I mean, when I moved out at 16, my apartment cost $170 a month and it was furnished. It was a one bedroom apartment. Yeah. Where are you going to find that today? And so, support can just be having the basic needs so they don't have to worry about food or even, the basic things that they need so that they can focus on what they want to do. Because we all know, or what I have learned, even going through my Saturn return, is that when you're building something that has a strong foundation and is worth committing to, it takes longer to build it. Anything that is built on a house of cards because you want it done quickly and you're looking for some kind of get rich quick, it collapses. And so there has to be time. So if you are forcing your adult children, you're like, oh, I'm teaching them responsibility and they've got to provide for themselves. They got to do this, this, and this. You're just creating more of the same because it is what you experienced as a child, right? It's like you not might necessarily not agree with what your parents did, it caused more struggle in your life. You didn't feel supported. You didn't feel like your dreams were important. And because of that, you parent in the same, not saying you because you're watching, it's just speaking in, you know, the overall perspective of it when you're raised that way. Um, you it's like it's easier to say you're going to do this and you're going to help me this way, and then you're creating the same cycle. And so I know that I come from a family lineage of women who have always struggled and they looked for a relationship to save them and they didn't have self-worth. And so when you are raising your children, you want them to have self-worth and value. Going back to this Taurus new moon, and it happens to affect my house of parenting. And so if you give your children the support, I'm not saying enabling them, like if they're not doing anything that's towards their future, yes, I get it. You want to teach them responsibility. But what part of you says that your child is being lazy if they aren't working any job because of what, how you were raised? And how did it create, like I like to take a step back and say, how did that affect me? And so, I didn't have the luxury of figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. I just had to take any job. I moved out. I got into, you know, dysfunctional relationships. I had a child. Um, and I created more struggle, meaning that uh, this the cycle kept repeating itself. It was repeating itself in my family lineage until I had an aha moment and I realized that I was the one who was creating the cycle on repeat because it's what I've learned. And so that's where you have to take a step back. It's all about self-awareness, being aware of what you are repeating because you said that that was the right way. And so what happened for me is as a single parent, I had this aha moment that I wanted better for my daughter. And so I decided to go back to school and move away from my hometown and figure it out on my own without any influences from my family because it was a cycle that was repeating itself and I didn't want to repeat the cycle. But even you still have those beliefs in your buried in your subconscious mind going back to the fourth house of home and your subconscious beliefs and your parenting and your mother energy. That's why I'm having this conversation with you because I have Taurus in my fourth house, just trying to show you how the pieces connect. And so that is where this is coming up for me because I get accused of enabling, but I'm doing things differently. And so people that your family members or people around you, that see how you are parenting when you're trying to break a cycle and they're part of the cycle, they're not going to understand. They're going to think that you're enabling or your kids are lazy or, that they should be having any job and they should be paying for this and paying for that. And that creates more of the cycle. So what you want to do for me, this is how I perceived it is if I can support my kids in a way of having their basic needs met in order for them to focus on what they really want, how they want to make a difference in the world without hopping into the struggle mentality in the hustle culture, they're going to be more well-rounded adults. I'm not enabling them. I don't treat them like they're children. I'm just giving them the support system. And that takes me back to even the European culture. In Europe, that's how they do it. They have their kids don't leave right away. They get to figure out what they want to do and how they want to make a difference in the world. The same thing with the elderly. They don't get shipped off to a retirement home. They stay in the family home. You get more well-rounded, healthy families without reaching burnout and having mental disorders because they feel supported. Everyone feels supported in this family unit. I don't mean to be enmeshed and controlled and everybody like little minions. I mean just feeling like you have full support to express yourself in a healthy way. Going back to Leo, the moon in Leo at this time. And then with this Leo moon, it's because we're still in the waxing energy of the cycle. It is the first quarter that comes up. So in the first quarter, that is when you start taking a look at what is working and what isn't working when it comes to your self-expression, your children, your passions, because that is what Leo rules. Are you being a leader with this intention that you set? Are you coming from being egotistical, or are you coming from being inspired? And so this energy is going to ask you to take an inventory around that, for the intention that you set during the new moon. And let's not forget that we are also in Taurus season, which means the sun is in Taurus. And we are also experiencing Mother's Day. So all of this is coming up around this Taurus, you guessed it, new moon. And this is all to get us from moving out of this stuck energy to go through a rebirth, to tap into our Venusian energy, which is the goddess energy, to manifest what we truly desire. And if you caught the last video, what area in your chart you have Taurus and how you're feeling this the most. And that's giving you the clue of what it is that you are setting the intention and working towards. Now, I'm probably going to get pushback from, my explanation of how I parent and the struggle mentality. If you are watching this and maybe you came from a home that you were fully supported, and how did that change your experience? Or maybe you didn't have the support. And if you agree or you disagree, I would love to hear about it in the comments. And then also, if you are interested in learning more about how you can tap into your avatar, and that is your big three, your sun, moon, and rising, and your Venus energy while we're going through this, because this is the perfect time to take my mini masterclass because we are still in this new year, new beginning, rebirth energy. And when you understand how you are the player in your game, your avatar, it makes it easier for you to understand why you have things on repeat, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and how you can step into becoming a high value woman, which means that you make yourself a priority, you pay attention to the red flags, and you move forward connected to you and your higher self. And I also have my book, She's Magic, and then I have a journal. If you would like a powerful journaling practice where I have 4 secret incantations, I do talk about working with the moon in my journal, as well as I talk about the planets and tarot. And there are some prompts there that you can dive into asking some of the tougher questions to get to know yourself better and know what your values are and how you want to participate in this new era for you. Um, and those are all, I will leave all the links down below. And if you enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe, leave a comment, share this episode. And if you enjoy listening, multitasking, you can find this episode over on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. And I'll see you next time.